character of Lot. Lot kind of mirrors Demas here in the situation. If you know the Bible character in Genesis, Lot was Abraham's nephew? If we begin at the end of Lot's life, yikes, did he ever shipwreck? He's got to be the greatest of all losers that this world has ever seen when it comes to the saints of God. Because of the wickedness of the surrounding society, Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed, and you know that story. Now Lot, the Bible says, was a righteous man. He knew the Lord. He actually was on God's side, or was supposed to be on God's side. He took up his residence there in Sodom and Gomorrah and was greatly blessed in temporary riches and wealth and prosperity. In the destruction, God sent 2 angels to snatch Lot from the destruction, but in the extraction, Lot lost everything. His business, his bank account, his reputation, his house. He lost the heart of his wife. You remember how that she turned back. God said, you go, you run, and don't turn back. There's nothing but destruction here and judgment of God, but that's all that Mrs. Lot had. That was everything. That her heart was in it, and she had to turn back. And the Bible says that God killed her on the spot. He lost his sons-in-laws. He lost their families, his grandchildren, if they had any. He lost the morals of the 2 daughters that he escaped with, sporting a drunken, incestuous affair with both of them, hiding in a cave, the end of his life. What a mess. What a disaster. What a warning to anyone not to go down the path that he went. What was his problem? Why did Lot end up where he did? Good questions. What happened to Demas? What happened to Lot? Well, we could point to several things in Lot's life that we learn about him. And this is, you could read in the testimony and what happened, the story that took place in Genesis, and we're not going to go there and look at it. You can look at the story anytime that you want to, but we learned that he led a double life. He's supposed to be a righteous man, but he never witnessed. He never showed that to the people around him. He kind of kept that in. Never once did he witness to his family. You remember when God was trying to take him, extract him from the destruction coming, he went to go warn his sons-in-laws, and maybe for the very first time in his life, he talks about God's judgment against sin. We need to get out of here. And you know what? They mistook him for sarcastic humor. Ha ha ha, that's a good one. Father Lot, never heard you talk like that before. Why? Because he never did. That never happened before. The words that were coming out of his mouth about God's character and God's holiness and man's sinfulness, never heard that before. He didn't teach his own kids godly values. He never stood up for righteousness against his colleagues. Certainly didn't care for the souls of his friends that were going to be judged. He tolerated alcohol. He was the most miserable example of unhappiness in the Bible. The Bible says he vexed his righteous soul from day to day. But that's where he ended up. In contrast, he started out so good, he had Abraham, a powerful man of faith and godliness, as his example. I mean, he was in the tribe of Abraham. He was part of Abraham's operation. Abraham, the friend of God, as James 2:23 puts it. So where did Lot go wrong? How in the world did he come from that kind of a background to end up where he did? Well, I don't know, but the Bible doesn't really say. But the Bible does say that when Abraham, they had to separate because they were so big and powerful, and their flocks were beginning to intersperse with one another, and Lot had a lot of wealth, and Abraham had a lot of wealth. They had to part one from another. And so Abraham comes to Lot, and he says, whichever way you go, I'll go the other way. You choose. You choose. And you go this way, I'll go this way. You go this way, I'll go this way. And he just leaves it up to Lot. And the Bible says in Genesis chapter 13, verse number 10, Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered, everywhere before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even at the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. He looked and he says, man, that's a beautiful, right there, that is a beautiful land. Matter of fact, with my business and what I got and the things that we can really prosper there. I mean, business is going and growing in and so and the Bible says the next verse, then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan. And Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves one from the other. And Abraham dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent toward Sodom. Now, the word toward is so very important. That means he didn't go inside of Sodom. He knew better than that. They were wicked men. They were awful. They were terrible, their practices. And the Bible says in verse 13, here's God's evaluation, but the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. So here he goes down there, maybe not intending on just kind of immersing himself into that wickedness, but that's where he went. And the Bible doesn't say why, but the Bible does say Lot chose him. It was a decision that he made. He made the decision to follow after what? God's will, holiness. And that wasn't on the screen for him. You know what was on the screen for him? Wow, look at the prosperity. What could happen to my business? What could happen to my bank account, to my ultimate worth? It was a small, little, insignificant choice. Lot, you can go this way, you can go that way. And the Bible says Lot chose him. Well, he had to choose at that point. It didn't seem like a big deal. Not then. Small, insignificant choice didn't seem to make a big difference. It wasn't spiritually earth-shaking. It didn't seem at that point. He merely placed physical things before spiritual things. Oh, that's what he did. Hey, pay attention. This message is for you, and it's for me. You know what Lot did? He placed physical things above spiritual things in this small, little, insignificant